Between 1968 and 1970, Jane Elliott, a third-grade teacher in Iowa, stood up to racism by designing an exercise to prove that racism is inhumane and that there is only one race, the human race. She made a positive impact by changing the way people perceive themselves and others in an affirmative way. Jane Elliott was a third-grade teacher in Riceville, Iowa. She stood up to racism in her classroom from 1968 to 1970. She did this to stop racism and to show that there's only one race, the human race. On Tuesday morning, she asked her all-white students a question, if they knew how it would feel to be judged by the color of their skin. She then asked her students if they wanted to be judged by the color of their eyes. That morning, she told her students that the blue-eyed people were better and smarter than the brown-eyed people. The blue-eyed students were treated better than the brown-eyed students. The brown-eyed pupils had to wear collars and had to drink from paper cups instead of the water fountain. During recess, the brown-eyed pupils were not allowed to play with the blue-eyed pupils and were not allowed to play on the equipment. At the end of the day, the students had to go through a deck of cards and were timed. The brown-eyed students had a time of 5.5 minutes, while the blue-eyed students had a time of 3 minutes. The next day, she told her students that she was wrong. She reversed the situation by making the blue-eyed pupils inferior and the brown-eyed pupils superior. The blue-eyed pupils had to wear collars, they had to drink from paper cups, and were not allowed to play with the brown-eyed people or play on the equipment. At the end of the day, when the students went through the card deck, the brown-eyed students only took 2.5 minutes. The blue-eyed students took 4.5 minutes. The idea of how the students on the day they were on the bottom were treated was similar to how African Americans are treated on a daily basis. At the end of the exercise, the students were told that this is what discrimination felt like and that it was a nasty thing that no one should go through. This exercise has made a tremendous impact on our students. It was so profound that after 15 years, the former students wanted to see the exercise again. After watching the exercise, they discussed about what they have learned from it and how they were impacted. Sandra was one of the students that went through Elliott's exercise. When the former students were discussing, Sandra stated,
You hear these people talking about, different people, how they're, they're different, and they'd like to have them out of the country. I wish they'd go back to Africa, and stuff. Sometimes I just wish I had that collar in my pocket. I could whip it out and put it on and say, wear this, and put yourself in their place.
Another former student, Verla, stated,
We was at a softball game a couple weekends ago, and there was a black young, hi Verla, and we hugged each other and everything, and some people really looked just like, what are you doing with him, and you just get this burning feeling, sensation in you that you just want to let it out and put them through what we went through to find out they're not any different.
The short-term impact of her exercise is that it also caused her students to be closer and nicer to each other throughout the rest of the year. Her students have treated each other with more respect and gained more confidence in themselves and in others.
Okay, you ready to listen now? Okay, now are you back? Yeah! That feel better? Yeah! Does the color of the eyes that you have make any difference in the kind of person you are? Does that feel like being home again, girls? Yeah! Oh, well, you stop it!
For 1968, Jane Elliott was ironing her teepee for her Native American unit. She got a call from her sister to turn on the television. When Elliott turned it on, there was a devastating news that would affect Elliott forever. Martin Luther King Jr. had died. A white reporter then stated, when our leader was killed several years ago, his widow has held us together. Who is going to control your people? Jane Elliott was shocked to hear that John Kennedy was just a white people's leader. She decided to combine her Native American lesson with MLK to use her exercise the following day. I got a chance to interview Miss Elliott. Her main inspiration was Martin Luther King Jr. She states,
Ignorance. And in fact, he was a man who had a good idea and who was right, and nothing will ever be able to destroy his memory or that idea. Someone has said, nothing can kill an idea whose time has come. Nothing can kill a man with a dream or an idea whose time has come. Martin Luther King Jr. Jane was a man who had a dream, and it was a dream of people seeing one another fairly and civilly and treating people in a civilized manner. Haven't been able to kill his dream. It's even more powerful today than it was when he was alive.
She also wanted to use her exercise because she states that people are.
That's it, pure and simple. People do not know, unaware, refuse to believe that there's only one race on the face of the earth. It's the human race, and we are all members of it.
To this day, Jane Elliott continues to conduct her exercise. In her exercises, the brown-eyed people are superior, while the blue-eyed people are inferior. As the people file in, Elliott treats each eye color differently and puts colors on the ones with blue eyes. The blue-eyed people are held in a small room with less than enough chairs. The brown-eyeds are held in a larger room with chairs for every person with food and drinks. The brown-eyed people are told that they are the better ones. After the exercise, the students speak about what they have learned. Jane Elliott has deeply impacted them while standing up for those of a different race.
I'm 63 years old, and I've seen England change so much. For me, it's so difficult because all of a sudden, we've got this multiracial society. It wasn't there when I was a kid, when I was a teenager even. And my kids accept it. They're amazing. I'm the one that genuinely has a great difficulty with it. But I'm learning. And today I think I've learned so much. Thank you.
Jane Elliott not only conducts exercises, she also holds conferences and other speaking engagements to discuss where racism comes from and how we can avoid being racists. She visits schools and colleges to educate students. Jane Elliott was once invited to the then-popular TV show Oprah Winfrey, where she spoke to the audience and explained about her exercise. During the show, she informed Oprah and the audience that the education system is misleading and giving students incorrect information. One example of incorrect information is the size of the countries in maps used. The Mercator map is a typical map that U.S. students in schools use. The Northern Hemisphere is where mostly white countries are. The countries in the Northern Hemisphere are larger than the countries in the Southern Hemisphere. Many countries like Greenland, Canada, the US, and Russia are all not as large as they should be. The definition of a continent is a large mass of land. Greenland is a large mass of land, but it is not a continent. Why is that? This is because it is not really a large mass of land. Jane Elliott stated that we make the northern countries larger than the southern countries because we believe that we are superior to the countries of different colors. The UK, which is in the northern hemisphere, appears to be larger than Madagascar, which is in the southern hemisphere. However, the UK is actually about half the size of Madagascar. That is because it is not really a large mass of land. Jane Elliott stated that we make the northern countries larger than the southern countries because we believe that we are superior to the countries of different colors. The UK, which is in the northern hemisphere, appears to be larger than Madagascar, which is in the southern hemisphere. However, the UK is actually about half the size of Madagascar. Another example would be Greenland and Africa. They look about the same size on the Mercator map. Africa is actually 14 times larger than Greenland. Elliott says that the Mercator map that everyone sees and uses is teaching students and adults to be racist because they are learning to believe that the Northern Hemisphere and all the white countries are superior and better than the countries of different races. She teaches her students not to believe in the Mercator map and that it should not be used because of how inaccurate it is. Between 1968 and 1970, Jane Elliott, a third-grade teacher in Iowa, stood up to racism by designing an exercise to prove that racism is inhumane and that there is only one race, the human race. She made a positive impact by changing the way people perceive themselves and others in an affirmative way. Jane Elliott stood up to racism through many methods, but her most remarkable method was her brown-eyed, blue-eyed exercise. She made a positive difference and touched the lives of many people. Jane Elliott has taught us all to treat everyone equally and to also take part in standing up to racism.